Hello, and welcome to the Writer's Workshop video on how to get a literary agent. My name's Harry Bingham, I'm an author myself, here are some of my books, and I've been a bestseller and I've been nominated for some major prizes. My work is sold all over the world, so I hope you think I know what I'm talking about. Step one in getting an agent, write a really good book. That is the only really critical step. It's also the hardest thing to achieve. But this video isn't the place to discuss how to achieve that step. There's advice on our website if you want it. The question arises, do you need a literary agent? For the vast majority of you listening to this video, the answer to that question is going to be yes. If you've written a novel, you certainly need a literary agent. The simple reason is that the major publishers of novels work exclusively through literary agents. So if you don't have an agent, you're cutting yourself off from 90% of the market, or in value terms, certainly more than 90%. The same goes for popular, broad-spectrum non-fiction, anything from a work on military history, let's say, to Freakonomics or a novelty book for Christmas. The only real exceptions are where you have a very niche product, typically non-fiction. So, how to groom your poodle, or a manual of beekeeping, or something of that sort. Something which isn't going to sell for a lot of money, where the publishers are going to be very small and very specialist, so that an agent doesn't really have any skills and contacts to bring you, and frankly they wouldn't be interested anyway because there's not enough money there. So in the vast majority of cases, yes, you do need a literary agent. Next thing is to draw up a target list. If you're American or Canadian, you'll want to go to the Writer's Market book, which is your basic listings directory for literary agents in the United States and Canada. In the UK, in Ireland, in Australia and New Zealand, South Africa, the book that you need is called the Writers and Artists Yearbook. In terms of drawing up your list, don't go crazy. What you're looking for is 8, maybe 10, maybe 12 names. And the reason is that that's sufficient to give you a real understanding of whether there is a market for your book. Remember that there are only probably 8 or 10 or 12 publishers for most books you might write. I've got a book out with the publishers at the moment. My agent sent it to 10 publishers. We've got 2 more in reserve. That's pretty typical. So if you can't get taken on by one agent in 10, let's say, you've got no reason to believe that you're going to be taken on by a publisher. In time, it's important not to be too scared of which agents to choose. Let's take an example. Sometimes we get asked a question. I've written an adventure story about naval aviation in World War II. Which agent is interested in books like that? It's kind of a dumb question. There aren't agents who specialise in adventure stories about naval aviation in World War II. There's just not a broad enough category. Most agents are very generalist. So my agent, for example, would happily represent fiction and non-fiction. He'll happily represent chick lit and crime fiction at one end of things, to highbrow prize-winning literary fiction at the other, and the same in the non-fiction area too. So all he really needs to know is that he likes the book and he thinks he can sell it. And that's all you're looking for. Obviously, when you draw up your list of agents, make sure you don't choose any agents who are obviously wrong. So if you're writing children's fiction, you do need to go to an agent who specialises in children's fiction. If you're writing a novel, then don't send it to an agent who only specialises in cookbooks or non-fiction. But as I say, most agents will handle most things. I recommend that you, on your list of 8 to 12 names, you have a mixture of bigger agencies and smaller agencies, ones that have been in business for longer, some that have been in business for less long. There's no particular reason there, but if you do get a couple of agents saying yes to you, it might be good to compare a larger agency with a smaller one. You might just feel comfortable in one rather than the other. So having drawn up a target list, you need to write your query letter. A query letter needs to follow the rules laid down by an agent in the Writers and Artists Yearbook, or in Writers Market in the case of North America. Some agents will say, please send me a query letter first. That means, essentially, hello agent, I would like you to represent this book. Is this the kind of thing you're interested in? More typically in the UK, the letter will actually say, dear agent, here is the opening 3 chapters of my book. Here's a synopsis. I hope you want to represent me. But either way, the format is pretty simple. Don't pitch too hard. Yeah, of course it is a letter where you can sell a little bit, but you don't really need to. The critical thing is the manuscript itself. That's what's going to make the sale for you, not any amount of words in that query letter. So keep it short and keep it simple. I'd say a page is more than sufficient. The opening paragraph, maybe just a line or two. Just say, I've written my first novel, seeking representation. It's a paranormal romance in which a human girl falls in love with a vampire boy. That might be Stephanie Meyer's first line for her novel Twilight, for example. That would be fine. That just places the kind of book that it is very quickly, very clearly in that first sentence. That'd be also a good place to mention the word count of your book, rounded to the nearest 5,000 words. No one gets too stressed about those things. Next paragraph, same thing, but at a little more length. Talk about the plot, the settings, the themes of your novel. Don't worry about detailing the plot blow by blow. That's something that can stay behind for the synopsis. The covering letter is not the place for that. Just introduce the book a little bit more fully than you did in that very bare first paragraph. Then, next paragraph, a sentence or two about yourself. I'm a 38-year-old accountant. This is my first book. That'll do fine. You don't need to say very much. Agents don't expect you to be a celebrity, to be beautiful, to have won a million writing competitions. If any of those things happen to apply to you, you might want to mention them. But it's absolutely fine if they don't apply to you. Just say, I'm a 38-year-old accountant. That's absolutely fine. Part of the package is very often a synopsis. Again, check the agent's website or their details in one of those two listings books to see what they need. If you have to write a synopsis, there's an example of it on our website. Don't get too stressed about it. It's a pretty simple document, and the truth is, most agents don't really care. It's certainly the least important part of the package. Then, get it out there. You can make all of your submissions in one wave, in 2 waves. I broke my first novel into 2 waves of 6 submissions, but it doesn't really matter. The one thing I would say is don't do it one at a time, because agents take so long to respond that you could take a very, very long time before you've reached your 8 to 12. So keep the pressure on a little bit, get 8 to 12 submissions out there, see what happens. Best of luck.